Hey, hello everyone. How is it going today? Welcome to Hacking with Auth0. I'm really excited to walk through Auth0, help you add authentication to your applications, and a lot of stuff. But before jumping into that, let's say hi to everyone in the chat. Let's see who we got. We got Yash underscore 090. We got Navid 2611. We got Manish Gupta 200. And we got Ayachit Gupta saying hello as well. Hello everyone and welcome back to another stream with me. I am excited, and as the title of the stream says, it's gonna be Hacking with Auth0. Alright, so we got Yo Man Cool Man saying hello as well. That's a really interesting Twitch username. I really like that. Alright, fantastic everyone. So before we jump into this, let's see. I want to, I always like to talk to people and know a bit more about them. So let's do this. Tell me if you have an experience adding authentication to any of your projects, right? It can be a hackathon project, a school project, or your own personal project. Have you ever tried adding authentication to any such projects? Because I have, and it's an interesting experience. So while you folks are answering in the chat, I'm just gonna talk about a small project that I am building currently, a side project. So this project is using Twitter because I like to play with the Twitter API a lot. And I'm trying out a new stack that's called Remix. So Remix is built on top of React.js. It's a pretty interesting way of building web apps because it brings back the old ways of how we used to create applications, and it tries to reduces all these complexities. But enough of Remix. So I was trying to implement Twitter OAuth into that. I did that, it was successful, but it was a lot of work because Remix is kind of still new and there are not a lot of libraries that I could have used to implement the OAuth, right? So that was an interesting place, and I realized that how complicated adding OAuth can get, or how complicated adding authentication in general can get, because you need to take care of a lot of security parameters as well, right? So that's something that is kind of interesting, and today we are gonna try to see how Auth0 makes it easy for us. And now we see Ayachit Gupta says they haven't tried adding auth before. Don't worry, today we are gonna do it. Now it says they have did it with Firebase. Yes says they also did it with Firebase. And then we got MR launch code. Yeah, just username and password auth via an express backend. Haven't tested auth, right? Even with the with just the username and the password, you have to create your own database and add a lot of, make sure that you have all those security protocols or the security layers on top of it, right? Otherwise it is fairly easy now for hackers to break into the system, right? So that is something that I am always worried about. Manish Gupta says yes, an attendance application with Azure and Firebase. That's interesting. Wow. Manish, if you want to, just share that application, if you can share that application with us, I would love for you to join me on the stream and, walk us through that application. Just drop me a message on Discord. You can already see me on Discord. I have that general. Wait, let me try to remove this overlay. And now you folks might be able to see my handler. Yeah. So the Discord as well, I am using this handler. So you can easily find me on Discord and just send me a message if you want to show the project that you created. And then Karan Chaudhary says, I have used it before with Firebase and it's super easy. Right? So that's what I did as well. So earlier when I was trying to implement authentication, I was using Firebase a lot. But then there was, I felt that, Firebase is not meant for authentication, right? It has that feature, it has that flexibility that allows you to create or add authentication, right? But it's not designed for that. It's designed for mainly as a real-time database. So Firebase was good, but it wasn't ideal at the same time. Yeah, with Firebase, obviously, right? That's what I'm saying. You don't have to worry about the database anymore because Firebase comes with a built-in database, right? So you can use that database for your application and managing the users as well. But again, I felt that Firebase was kind of locking you into the whole ecosystem, right? If you wanted to use, I don't know, maybe another database, for example, MongoDB, then you would have to, configure it in such a way that you would have to, how do you say that? Yeah, you were kind of tied into that whole ecosystem, which I didn't really like. So that's my personal opinion. Again, I have used Firebase. I like it for a lot of reasons, but I am experimenting with a lot of other stuff, and Auth0 is one of them. Alright, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start with sharing my screen. Okay, I see Manish Gupta 200 says that they would be joining us on the stream, so that's wonderful. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wait for Manish to send me a message on Discord, and then we can get him on the stream so that we can learn what kind of project they created and how they added authentication on that. And I saw another message coming in. Can you please share your social media handles? Definitely. So you can find me on social media almost everywhere with this handler. Where am I pointing it? Yeah, over here. So it's Harshil1712. I'm most active on Twitter. So that's the best place, to just shout at me. Okay, enough of talking. I have been talking a lot. My god. Let's just start with adding auth. Okay. So I am more of a React developer. I have been playing around with React for a while now. So today we are gonna see how to add authentication to a Next.js app. So if you are not familiar with Next.js or React, just let me know in the chat and I would be happy to just talk about it for a few minutes and help you understand what React is and what is Next.js. Oh wait. While you folks are typing in, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna give you a quick overview of what we're gonna do. So we're gonna start with creating a Next.js application. We're gonna add authentication on top of it using Auth0. Now, what I want to do is I don't want to get too much into adding authentication and managing protected routes and stuff like that. What I want to do is just add a simple authentication to our application, and then from there move on to Auth0 actions. So Auth0 actions is a pretty cool feature that Auth0 released a while back. So it allows you to do certain kind of things, like if a user registers, you can have Auth0 action set up, which would automatically send them an email, an SMS, or add them to a spreadsheet, whatever you want to do, right? So that's just one example. If a user signs no if a user, there is also this ask for changing a password, you can also send yourself an alert. So Auth0 action does all that, and we are going to look into it. So that is one of the exciting things that I really like about Auth0, which we are going to dive deeper into today. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with creating a Next.js project. So let me move to a directory. Alright, so to create a Next.js project, we have to use the command npx create next app, and then we can add the project name. So over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call it Auth0 next action. So what this is doing is this is gonna set up the whole project for us. So all we have to do is then go into that project directory and just run the project. So it's now downloading all the dependencies. That's done. All right. Wow, that was fast. Let's go ahead and go into the project directory. I'm gonna clear this. I'm gonna open Visual Studio Code. All right. So I'm just gonna zoom in a bit so you folks can see it clearly. So let's start the server for now. Alright, so we have a local server running right now, and it's running on localhost 3000. So if I go to a browser, if I come over here and open localhost 3000, so this is a project. It's kind of ready. It's already out there. We can deploy it. If I make any changes to this, let's just say pages, and I want to change something over here. Welcome to Global Hack Week. Save this. I come back to the browser, and it hot reloads. So this is another cool feature, I would say. For it's basically for the developer experience, so I don't have to close the server, restart the server again to see the changes live on the screen, right? So that's why I kind of love this whole developer ecosystem that we have around here. All right, let me quickly come back over here. So now I'm gonna just walk you all through the project structure for Next.js. Now there are gonna be a lot of things. It's completely fine. Most of the things today, we are not gonna touch them. We are not gonna play around with them. We're just gonna leave it as it is, but we'll try to understand why they are over here. All right. So the first is a .next folder. So this is basically created when we create when we build the project or when we run it as a in the developer environment. You can see we have the cache over here, the server, the static, and all the other files. We are never gonna play around with that. We're not gonna touch with that. So I'm not gonna get into too much details. And then we have the node modules. So this folder contains basically all the npm packages of our project, right? Now, if you are not sure what are node modules or what is npm, let me try to explain it to you. So we are building a project that's based on React, and React uses Node.js, right? So Node.js is basically JavaScript. It's a flavor of JavaScript that allows you to create server side applications as well, or you can write basically server side code using JavaScript, right? So just like we have uh, different libraries in C, in Python, we have a lot of libraries in for Node.js as well, and we are using a few of those libraries. Not a few, to be honest, a lot of those libraries. So you can see there is a lot, right? So this is the node modules folders, and then we have the pages. Now in the pages we have an API folder. So this is where we kind of write the code for a server side. If you want to make an API call, we can write the code in this API folder, and this is where we can interact with the server, or we can have our own server. So if someone goes to basically this route, let's just go there. So if I go to /API/hello, we see the JSON response in here, right? So this is the API folder, and then we have the app folder. So this is basically composing the whole app. And then we have the index.js file, which is the first page that we are seeing right now. And then there is the public folder where we will store the public assets, just like the favicon. If there are any images that you want to store and use, you can store it in the public folder. And styles is where we have our CSS going in. So ESLint is basically the configuration for ESLint. I hope you know what git ignore is. If not, let's talk about it. So git ignore basically tells git not to track this particular files and folders. So we don't want git to track node modules. We don't want it to track the .next folder, the build folder, and all those things. So that's another thing that we are doing over here. Next config is the configurations that we want to use for Next.js. Now we are not going to play around with this as well. Packet.json contains the information around the project, and then readme is the documentation of the project, and then yarn.log is basically containing all this information about the packages that have been installed. Okay, so that was a small dive into the project structure that we have today. So let's go ahead and start adding Auth to this. So Auth0 already has a package or an npm library that we can use for Next.js, which makes it really easy to add authentication. This is the package, or this is the library that we are going to add. So I'm just installing it, and while this is getting installed, let's go ahead and try to find its documentation. Auth0 / yes, Auth0. So this is the library that we are going to use today. Okay, let's see. All right, so everything is installed now and it's working. Let's check if it's working or not. Basically, it is working. I just want to show you that after even installing our packages, nothing has changed. If I come over here, still as it is, what we have to do is we have to add auth manually. Now again, I'm just gonna add auth quickly because I want to talk more about the Auth0 actions. So we'll dive into that. Okay. Uh, Now after installing the Auth0 package, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to getting started. And you can see already have an Auth0 actions template over here. But I'm going to show you step by step on how to create a whole tenant and an application on Auth0. So over here there is an option that says create tenant. So I'm going to click on that and let's call this Next.js Auth0 Global Hack Week. Now I'm based in Europe, so I'm going to let the region be Europe. And the environment right now is development because we are developing the application. And we got a message from Karan Chaudhary asking, we'll grab our Auth0 credentials, right? Yes, so that's what we are doing now. So because we want to get those credentials, we are creating a tenant on Auth0. And with that, we will have these credentials. So I'm going to create this while this is creating. Let's see if we have any other question. Also, Karan Chaudhary, let me know if that answers your question. If not, I am happy to, extend a bit on that. Now we got our Auth0 action over here. So let's go ahead and go to applications. We have a default tab and I think I'm going to use the default app for now. So if I open the default app, we now get the client ID, the client secret, and we can change all the settings over here. The application type over here would be a single page app because with Next.js we always build a single page application. Now what we have to set is the application URI, which okay, yeah, we have to set the callback URI. So I'm gonna use, again, this is being run locally, so I still have to use localhost. You can see we have localhost 3000 and then we'll have a route that is API auth and then callback. And then for logout, we'll have another route. Now for logout, what we're going to do is we're going to basically log out the user and send them to the index page. Right, and yeah, that's all we need for now. So now go ahead and click on save changes. All right, our changes are saved, and as Karan mentioned, we need to grab this credentials for Auth0 and we need to store it somewhere. So we're gonna come to our project and we are gonna go ahead and do a .env.local. Now what I am doing with .env.local is basically creating an environment variable file, and this is where all my credentials are gonna live. This file is gonna live locally on my machine. Also, if you see over here, so if you have noticed, a few of these file names are colored, has a color of white. So this is also white, this is also white. A few of them are orange or yellow or orange, right? Because these are modified, but a few of them are completely gray. So you see the node modules folder, they are gray, and that is the same for .env.local. So what I want to explain you over here is that this is because of, as Karan says, the .getIgnore file. So with .getIgnore, we told it, hey, you have to ignore these files and these folders. And the way to understand, or the way to differentiate, or the way to know which files and folders Git ignores is by this color. So we have .next is in gray, is grayed out, node module is grayed out, env.local is grayed out. So we know that Git is not going to track it. So every time I commit the changes and I push it to GitHub, all these files are not going to get pushed to GitHub. So if you are checking that GitHub repository, you won't be using my credentials. So my credentials are basically safe, right? And they are not exposed. All right. So I'm first gonna quickly add all the variables over here. So the first thing I want is secret. So this is something that we are gonna generate. I'm gonna show you a small command that we are gonna use to do that. But after that, we are also gonna use need a base URL. This is gonna be basically our HTTP URL. I mean the localhost URL. Localhost 3000. And then Auth0 issue page URL, and this is the URL that we are gonna get from Auth0. Then we need the Auth0 client ID, and lastly the Auth0 client secret. All right. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this to another screen for now, configure all these values, and then come back to you folks. So let me do this. I'm just gonna stop sharing my screen for now. All right. Okay, but I need to also show you the Auth0 secret part, right? So let's come back to the terminal for now, close the server, and I am basically gonna run this command that is node -e and then do console.log. Basically I'm just telling the terminal to I'm telling the terminal, hey, run this node.js the script that I am typing right now to generate a random string of 32 bits and then print it out to me. This is gonna be now my Auth0 secret. Now, as you can see, it's completely random, and it's a general practice, and it's a good practice to have a random secret key. All right. Now that I have the secret key, I am gonna remove my screen. All right. So I am gonna now set up my client ID. And now I'm just copying the client secret. All of these values are available on your Auth0 dashboard. So if you go to your application and then to the settings tab, you would see these values. Right. Okay, let's bring it. So I have configured all these values. So over here I have the domain. I copied the client ID as well as the client secret. So now I have all this information coming in. I am ready to go and use these credentials to set up my authentication basically. All right. The next step we want to do is we want to create API routes. So let's go ahead and do that. We're gonna have a new file. So basically so I want this file under the auth folder, and this is this might be not something that you might have seen. So what this basically angle brackets over here do is any call made to /API/auth would be handled by this particular file. So now I don't have to worry about creating different kind of callbacks, not callbacks, but different kind of routes. So we imported handle auth, and we are gonna simply export default. Oops. Handle auth. Right. So what this will do is this will create different routes for us. So that it will create a basic route which will take the user to the login page of Auth0. It will also create automatically the callback route, the logout route, and profiler /me route where you can get the information of the user. Now that we have it, one thing we need to do is wrap our whole application under a provider. So this basically will allows us to use then the Auth0 library in any of, not the library, but the information that is going to be passed on from one component to another throughout the application. Okay. All right. So this looks good. What we want to do is now we want to have a nice probably login button first, because without the login button we won't be able to take the user to login, right? But let's do this. So I mentioned that we are doing, because we created this auth0.js file, and it's gonna create automatically all these routes. I want to quickly show you how it might look like. So we are on create new app. Let's see, yeah, server is up and running. So now if I go to /API/auth/login, it should work. Everything is set up correctly. It works. You see that it is taking us to our default application where the user can log in, right? So we didn't create the login route, it automatically worked out of the box. All right. So till now we are doing pretty well on time. So I am, talk something apart from this if you folks want to, because we are doing good on time and I think we are gonna cover everything pretty well. Or if you have any questions, or if you want to share stuff that you have built, just let me know in the chat and I would be happy to talk about it and get you on the stream so that you can share what you created. Okay. While you folks do that, I am gonna go to index.js and what do we want to do? Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna leave the title as it is, and I am gonna probably remove this section and remove this. What I want to do is I want to have a login button, right? So let's have the link component. Now this link component is a default component that comes in with Next.js. It's the word that I was looking for. This is API auth login. and we are gonna call it log n. The server is still running, but we got an error over here. Let's see why. Because there is a main class, and the main class is alright. So we'll need to have a closing tag for the main class. Alright. If I refresh this. Alright, okay. So instead of 2, it should be href. Perfect. So we have welcome to Global Hack Week, and then we have the login button. So if we click on this, it takes us to the login page. Pretty simple. Alright. Once the user logs in, we don't want to show them the login screen, and we probably might want to show a success message or something like that. So let's see how we can do that. So I'm gonna add the user hook from Auth0, and then just extract a few things from that. So let's just say we want the user, we also want the error message, and check if it's loading, and then it's use user. It's fantastic. Now we just want to show this page if the user is not logged in. Alright, let's see. So what we can do over here is we can write some script that says if user is not logged in, it should show this, else. Okay. We want to do a logout button. So this is going to be href, and then we want to take the user to the logout route. So what is going to happen? Well, basically, if the user logs in, we got a user object, right? Now what this particular code snippet is going to do is it's going to check if the user is present or not. If the user object is not present, that means that the user hasn't logged in, and that's why we show them the login button. But if the user is present, we don't want to show the login button. We want to show them the logout button, and that's what we are doing over here. Let's do one more thing. Okay, first of all, I'm just going to change this to mlh.io, and then after h1, okay, let's do this. Do something similar as well. So if user, we're gonna say let's see if this works. I am not sure if we have user.name, but GitHub Copilot suggested it, so we might have that, right? Okay. Oh, so we got a message from Karan Chaudhary saying, I once took part in a Hashnode hackathon where we were asked to create an app using Auth0. Although I was unable to finish the project, it was a great experience using Auth0. That's fantastic. Karan, do you want to show that project to us on the live stream? I mean, we'd like to see what you created, even though it's incomplete, right? Because most of my projects are always incomplete. So trust me, your project would be more complete than my project. Alright, so this is working. Our server is not complaining. So I'm just gonna quickly do a refresh. So it says hello stranger. I mean, it's alright. Let's just add white space over here. Right. Now I'm just gonna log in. And we want a test user. So I'm just gonna do test user test.com, and the password is gonna be really complicated. It's difficult to create a complicated password. Okay, I'm showing this password to you all right now so that you all can help me when I forget the password. Alright, just gonna continue, and we got a problem. Okay, just gonna go to sign up. Just to test user @test.com, and then the password looks good. Just gonna do continue. Yes, we want to authorize this, so accept it. And it works. A user is now logged in. Because they are now logged in, we get this wonderful message. And we now also get the logout button. Right, so if I now click on the logout button, the user gets logged out. So it was quite easy, right? So what we did, well, we added the Next.js library that Auth0 created. We punched it up with a couple of things. So we created a route to handle and automatically create different routes for us. We wrapped it. We wrapped the whole application under the user provider, and then we added the login functionality. So we didn't even actually add the login functionality, right? We just added a login button and a logout button, and we added some checks. So if the user is logged in, we want to show them something. If they're not logged in, we want to show them something else. So that's what we did. And in this few lines of code, we created a whole application that now has the authentication mechanism set in. Right, now there is still a lot that we have to do and we can do, but as I already mentioned at the start of the screen, I want to play a bit more with Auth0 actions. So I am gonna go into that, but before that, I see we have a message from current authority. They say that they would be happy to share it, but it's not live. If it runs on your local machine, that's fantastic. We can show it to everyone on the stream right now. The project does not necessarily have to be live, right? So it's completely fine if it's not live. If you can run it locally on your machine, just let me know. Just hit me up on Discord and I will be happy to get you on. And Karan says that if we would have used Google for auth, it would have shown our name too. Yes, definitely it would have done that. But for obvious reasons, I am not gonna, sign up using my Google account on the live stream because it might expose my email address and other things that I don't want to make it public on the live stream, right? But that's something that definitely is, what you can do. All right, this also reminds me, let's see how this looks like on Auth0. So if I go to user management and if I click on users now, we see that now there is a new user created, right? So as a project admin, I can see the user. I can also go ahead and create a user. I can delete this user. I can, assign them roles. So if you're creating some kind of application where, if a user pays, I don't know, if there's a subscription model involved and you want to show some information only to people who have paid for a certain tier, right? You can then assign roles to them. Now this is doing it manually, but you can always do it via code. And that is something I think we might be able to do today. Let's see if we get to do that. All right, so I can go and see the details for the user. Right, so I know let's do this. I'm gonna call it test user, or maybe let's call it GHW. But we already have global hack week on the screen, so what name should we give that test user? I'm gonna call it test user. Save this. So instead of test user at the test user something, it's gonna give us this name. We can also, can we do that? Okay, never mind. So there are other things. So we can change the email, we can change the password. Now this is again from the admin side. This is not what the user will see. This is only the app admin will see. So if you are creating the application, this is what you will see and not the user. Okay, let's again, just to show you the name over here, I'm gonna go to login. I'm gonna log in with the test user that we just created. Now we see we have hello test user. All right, so this looks good. I log in and log out functionalities are working, and we got a lot of time to play with Auth0 actions. So let's dive into it. So Auth0 actions is a really interesting feature that allows you to add a lot of stuff in your authentication flow. So let's go to the flows first, right? And this is the whole kind of the flow, right? So right, so if the user logs in, what do you want to do? So you can do a lot of things. You can then search for different actions that are already there. I'm not going to go into browse actions for now, but you can browse the actions that are already created, import them, and add it over here. So if the user logs in, you do step 1, you do step 2, you do step 3, stuff like that. You can also have your custom actions created. You can also do something for machine to machine login. You can do pre-user registration. So even before the user gets registered, you can fire off an action to do some stuff. You can have a post user registration. So if a new user registers, you can do some stuff. So what you can do is you can store their email into your newsletter if they give you that consent. You can send them a welcome email, a lot of those stuff. Then we got a post change password. If a user changes a password, you can always send them an email or a notification saying like, hey, a password was changed. If this wasn't due, go to this link to quickly go ahead and update your password, right? Something like that. And then we can also send them a phone message. So that's the way that we can get started. Now I'm going to go ahead to the library and talk a bit about this. So there are a couple of actions that are already created. So let's go and browse the actions. So I'm not going to go ahead and talk about all of this, but I might talk about one or two of those. All right. So let's just say you want to create a multi-factor application, right? So once the user logs in, they still have to create, or they still have to set up and enter the code. Only then they are successfully logged in. Or if you just want to send them an SMS, right? So you can use the 1H action over here in your application. Then Pilwar is another service that you can use to configure actions to send a message to the user, and that AWS SNS is a pub sub service if you want to have any kind of notifications going into the applications, or basically the in-app notification. You can use AWS SNS. Apart from this, let's see if we have something else. Okay. So over here we can see, that we got a bunch of options, but still there is not everything, that we want to do is present over here, right? So again, I'm going to go back to the subscription example. So once the user logs in, okay, let's say this. We have a login page, especially for people who want to subscribe to a particular service. So if we do that, and we are using Stripe to handle payments, we don't have an action for Stripe, right? So how do we gonna do that? We're gonna now create a custom action to handle this. And I'm gonna show you how to create a custom action and how to play around with that. But I see an interesting question coming up in the chat. What are your favorite services in this? That's a really good question. Like honestly, I haven't used a lot of these services. I always end up doing a custom service, and I'm gonna tell you why. But if you say what, so I'm gonna say it's OneEdge, because I have used OneEdge in a couple of my projects, and I kind of like using OneEdge in a way, because I have created a lot of things which is related to SMS. So OneEdge provides that option. But one thing I want to really try is AWS SNS. Now I have used AWS SNS, but I haven't fully integrated that into an application, right? So I've just played with the service but haven't used it in a real world application. So that's something that I am excited to try it out. Now I want from you folks, tell me which service you would like to try out from all this, right? Now you can also open this particular page by logging into Auth0 and then going to the library page and then click on, let me just quickly show you again. So if you go to click on add action, it takes you to the browse actions page where you can see all these actions. So tell me which one would you have tried? If not, which one would you like to try out? Yes says VO. Yes, is it OneEdge or something different? Because I don't see a VO over here. Okay, it's SMS and notifications. So I am assuming it's OneEdge. I'm gonna assume it's OneEdge. Yes, I know it sounds simple and cool. And I don't know if I have enough credits left in my OneEdge account to show you it in action. But I know a lot of people did use I've also used Twilio, right? So you can use Twilio as well. I enjoyed working with Twilio as well. That's something to explore. And I just saw that there is this unique face authentication, which is fast and secure second factor authentication with using facial biometrics. So this is interesting. I might want to try it out. Do you just add an OAuth on top of it? No, sorry, not OAuth. add a multi-factor authentication which uses facial biometrics. So that is something that it can be, tried out as well, but I don't think I will be able to do it on this stream. Let's check it out. Karan is asking, what about Amazon SNS? So it's a pub/sub service, right? So what it does, pub/sub means publish and subscribe. So it helps you to have some kind of real-time notification service. That's the best example that I can give. So if an event occurs, you can send a message to that particular queue to SNS, and then based on the logic that you have in that queue, AWS SNS would send out that to the other services if you have configured that, and in a way you can have your whole notification system going on. Now, I'm not too much into the pub/sub ecosystem, so I wouldn't be the best person to talk about it a lot, but I would say you just try it out on your own. You would get a bit of more idea on how that works. Do Twilio also provide Auth or something like that? So Twilio provides a lot of things. It has an SMS service as well, which I have used. You can also create WhatsApp bots with Twilio. With Twilio SendGrid, you can configure sending this emails to the users. So you can do a lot of stuff with Twilio. So it's not a auth provider, but I would say it's a communication provider. Okay, what I wanted to do. So I wanted to. Yes, so we wanted to build our custom action. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm gonna click on build custom, and we can now, you can see we can trigger it on a lot of cases. We can do it post user registration, pre-user registration, change password, send phone message, and all this stuff. I'm just gonna do it post login because we already have a user created, so that whenever they log in, we want to do something, and I'm gonna call it I don't know, send message post login. All right, I just got a crazy idea that I want to try out in the stream. Let's see if we can make it work. In the runtime, we are gonna select node 16 because that's the recommended one. I'm gonna click on create. So we see now here is a whole editor inside the browser, and this is using Node.js under the hood. Just trying to zoom in so that it is more visible to you all. I hope this font size works for everyone. Now, what I basically want to do is, let's do this. Once a user logs in, we want to send a message on Discord probably. How does that sound? While you folks give me an idea what we want to do once the user logs in, I'm gonna go ahead and add a dependency. Yes, you can add a dependency in here, and I'm gonna add Axios. For folks who are not familiar with Axios, it's basically it's basically a dependency to make API calls inside the node environment. Require Axios, right? And this is gonna be all right. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm just gonna have a const URL. I'm just gonna keep it empty. Now Yes, Proxy, that's totally cool. Let's do Discord message. Alright, let's do Discord message. Again, folks, if you have any idea what you want to do once the user logs in, just pop it up in the chat and we'll try that out as well. Karan Chaudhary also says it's cool, so we're gonna go ahead and do that. Wonderful. So in this URL, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paste in my Discord's webhook URL where we're gonna send a message. Now I will have to now check the Discord's API and the documentation to see how that is done. Let's see. But we're gonna figure it out. It's not a problem. Let's go to Discord documentation. For no. Discord. Okay, let's see. I hope it. Okay, wonderful. So it now shows us the documentation. What we want to do is send a message to the webhook. Okay, now this is an incoming webhook. We want to get channel webhooks, get guild webhooks, get webhook message. No, we want to send a message. Anyone has any clue on how we can do it? Yes, yes, Karan, definitely. So that's what I am thinking about, to create an action to ping us whenever a user logs in, right? Remember, we selected an action to get triggered whenever a user logs in. We can do it for post-user registration. The process is gonna be the same. The only thing that is gonna change is the trigger. So instead of when we created the action, we selected the post login trigger. In your case, what we want to do is then select the post user registration trigger, and we are going to include some of the user's basic details. So we're going to get into that as well. I'm just trying to figure out how we can send in a message with webhook via code. Come on, Discord, give me this. So we can nah. It's the message components, application commands. Maybe message components contains our information. No. Receiving and responding. Responding to, no, this is an interaction. I just want to send a message, Discord. Anyone has any ideas how to do that? I have done that in the past, but I don't remember how I did that. Handling interactivity, adding message components. Discord. Send message via webhook. Okay, I am gonna use this article by a fellow dev. Okay, so this is gonna be a post request where we send in the thing. That it has to contain the message to send. Okay, sounds interesting. Sounds doable. Let's see. So we already have set up the URL. We want to make a post request. So let's go to Auth0 actions again. So this is gonna be a post request. So let's do an await Xero.post, and then it has to be the URL that we want to send the information to, and so we will create the params. I don't want the avatar URL, so I'm just going to remove this. My webhook name, I'm just going to call it login bot for now, and let's just say Just for testing, I'm just gonna call it user logged in, and we're gonna pass this params. Right? Now what I can do is I can save the draft and I can test it as well. So if I come over here, if I click on run, it's gonna test it out, but again we need a URL for this. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quickly go to my Discord server, and I have an experiments channel. Perfect. And let me just quickly create, or I mean I can but I don't want to expose my webhook. It's not gonna expose my webhook, I guess. Let's see. So I'm gonna bring my Discord on your screen. Yeah, that's a tweet. So I basically went to exhibition / museum yesterday. It was really interesting. It was really fun, and this is the picture I took there. But anyways, coming to experiments channel over here, I'm gonna go to server settings. Where was webhooks? Why I always cannot find things when I need them. Integration, yes. Webhooks. I'm gonna create a new webhook, and I'm gonna call it Auth0 bot. Thanks, Karan. That's helpful. And I'm gonna use the experiments channel. Yes, gonna copy the webhook. Gonna save the changes. Perfect. We've copied the webhook URL. Now I'm gonna just quickly remove this from the screen so that I don't show you the webhook URL and you don't start messing with it right now. So I have now the URL configured. I'm gonna save it. Alright, so I have added my URL on the top there. Ooh, I could have done it in the secret as well, but never mind. So I'm gonna test it out. I'm gonna click on run. So just gonna run it in a test environment. We see that there is no errors, which means everything ran well. Everything ran well, and the request duration, and you can see all this information. This is pretty cool. It seems everything is working fine. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and deploy it. So custom action is now live. It's deployed, and I see a comment on this particular picture that says looks like Mars. Yes, it was Mars. So this was a really interesting concept at this particular booth, where they would talk about I just had that word on my tongue and I completely forgot it. So it's basically transporting instantly, teleport. Yes, teleporting, right? So it was that particular concept that they were talking about, and that's where that's where this picture was presented. And we see that our test ran successfully, and we got a message from a bot that says user logged in, right? This is pretty cool. Now what I want to do is, we want to know which user logged in, right? We just don't want to say user logged in. We also want to know which user logged in. Further, what we can do is we can have launched user, and this can be event.user. Now event.user contains a lot of information. Just trying to see if I can basically console log this. Let's try it out. I'm going to do console log user, and I'm going to run a test again. All right, okay, wonderful. So over here we see that the user logged in, and this is the user information. Now this is a dummy user because this is a test environment again. So if you think I'm exposing anything, I am not. We are safe. and then the stats around the action. So all right, so in the user we got a name, so I'm going to send in the username. So I'm going to close this and say, all right, so let's call this name, and this is going to be user dot name. Now we don't need to this, and let's just update this message. We'll say user and then the name. All right. Logged in. I'm gonna save it. Now I'm not gonna test it. I'm just gonna deploy it and see it in action and see if it actually works, right? So it's deployed. Wonderful. I'm gonna go back to custom actions now. Let me zoom out a bit. In custom, we see now we have a send message post login that we created. So this is created, our action is live, but we need to configure it to run it. So I'm gonna go to flows. I want to start it after the user logs in. So now what we want to do? So we want to have a custom, and I'm just going to drop it over here. Right, so I can do multiple things over here. So I can have another action that would, maybe do a tweet. I don't know, just a random idea. And it's not relevant over here. I mean, it's relevant over here, but not a good example. But we can have another action that just sends out the tweet. So we can then have that coming in over here. So now I can also have the same thing running again and again, but we don't want that. So I'm going to remove this one. All right, I'm going to apply it. So we now have a flow, an action flow running for our application. So I'm going to go back, come back to our server. So again, this was the test. That's fine. All right, our application is running. Let's see. I'm gonna refresh this. I'm just gonna wait. Did we log in the user? But the user was already logged in. Let's just log out the user. I'm just gonna refresh this again. All right, looks good. Let's log in. The moment of truth. Oh, okay. This is not the password that we have. What was the password? Password. Test user @1234567 Probably this. Oops. I'll copy it for future purpose. Test user test.com. Let's see. Wonderful. So the user got logged in, and we got a message on Discord that says test user logged in. Right. So we didn't have to write a lot of code to configure this particular action. Right. We just had to tell action that, hey, just make a call to this particular URL and send in this information. And now we get a message every time a user logs in. All right, so this was an interesting one, but I'm going to take it to the next level, and I'm going to go to it in a while. I just want to talk to you folks right now. So yes, says teleportation from Earth to Mars. Sounds cool. It was pretty cool. It was pretty cool. So they didn't had just Mars. They had, I think, Moon, and then a Wonderland, and a couple of other places. I don't remember exactly what, but it was pretty cool. Mission completed. Mission completed. And I would say we just started the mission. Right? We just started, right? There is a lot of things to do. And I have been talking about subscription a lot. So I want to show you folks how we can do it for Stripe. If we want to do it for Stripe, right? So if you're planning to have, a paying course or a subscription platform for yourself, or creating it for someone, and you want to do it for, and you want to have something like this, so maybe when a user registers, you want to send them a payment link, for example, or you want to add them to Stripe, stuff like that. So there is a lot of things that you can do. Now, I have been trying this with another stuff, and I want to show you real quick that, because that would allow us to extend it further with minimum lines of code. So till now what we were doing is we were sending in a request to Discord. Let's go back to a library, to our custom action. Nah, we don't want to delete it. Alright. So what I want to do is I just don't want to send it to Discord. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave it as it is. I'm just going to go ahead and update the URL. And this URL is going to be a URL for my N8N instance. So I am using N8N, which is a low-code automation platform. You can, use N8N locally on your machine using the desktop app, or just install N8N using npm. If you have used Docker, you can do that as well. I am using N8N Cloud. It's a hosted service by N8N. And I'm going to call it Auth0 action W. And I'm going to add a webhook over here. Let's do this. And I am going to change it to post. And I'm going to copy the webhook link. Save this. Come back to my action. And this is the webhook URL that I'm going to use. And what I want to do over here is I want to send event.user. So I'm going to send all the information to this particular webhook. Now why I am doing this, I'm going to talk about it in a while. Let's just test it out first. So I am going to execute the workflow. I'm going to save this and I'm going to test it out. Okay, so we don't have any errors. That's pretty cool. And if I come to N8N, let's go to JSON, and we have the app data, and we have all this test data that is coming in for the user. So this is fantastic. Now, why I thought about this is because after the user logs in, I want to send them an email. So I can use send email node to send them an email. I also want to add them to Strapi. So I can add the Strapi node over here, or I want to add them to Stripe. Where is Stripe? Stripe. Here's Stripe. So I want to add them to Stripe. So I can add them to Stripe over here. I want to send an SMS as well. So I can use an SMS service, maybe Twilio for example, and do this over here. So with just one URL, I can perform different actions. So that's what I really like about this kind of approach, because now I'm not, coding it in Auth0 action, but I'm coding it in N8N and not exactly coding it, right? So Karan Chaudhary is asking me what's the service I'm using. So I am using N10.io, which is a low-code automation platform. And a full disclosure, I work at N10, so I use N10 a lot. Like I have a lot of projects going on that use N10. So you don't have to necessarily use N10, but it is something that I have been doing and I thought of sharing with you all. All right, let's come back to N10. And again over here, I can also set up that Discord. I can have Discord over here and then send up a test. Karan says it looks interesting. It's pretty interesting. I really enjoyed trying it out and having a lot of stuff. I have created so much stuff and so much crazy things with N10 itself. Cool, you work at N10. Yeah, thank you so much. I really enjoy working at N10, and we are hiring, so you can just check it out, the open roles, and just apply if you think you want to work at N10 and if you think you are a good fit for that role. All right, so for now we created an action which is post user login, but we want to do it for post user registration because we want to add that user to Stripe once they register, and we also want to do publish under ourselves to Discord message as well, right? So what I am gonna do now is go back to actions. I'm just gonna copy this whole thing. Let's just leave it as it is for Discord for our how do you say it? Post user login. Let's see another message. Is it locally hosted? So you can locally run it on your machine. You can host it on your own server. You can also download the desktop app if you just want to play around with N10. I have N10 running on my own server, and I am also using N10 Cloud, which is again a hosted service by N10 itself. Okay, let's go ahead and do a custom action in this. My bad. I am going to go ahead and do build custom, and this is going to be add user to Stripe, and the trigger for this is going to be post user registration. Create this, and I'm going to simply paste the code that we had from the previous one, and in dependencies just gonna add Aws. Alright, I'm gonna save this. For now, I'm gonna pause both of these nodes because we haven't configured them, so they will run into an error. I'm gonna execute the workflow and run the test. Alright, so we got an error that says it should use on execute post user registration. Alright, because we just copied and pasted it, right? It still says post login, but we want to do post user where it is, REGIST registration, right? So I'm going to save this, test it again. Alright, so this was a success because we don't have any error over here. Come to N10, we still get this information. That is pretty fantastic. Alright, so first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to first set up Discord, because it's quite straightforward. We don't have to do a lot of stuff in here. So let's go back to Discord. I'm gonna go to server settings and integrations, webhook, and I'm just gonna copy this webhook URL. I'm gonna again okay, let me just open the node. So I'm gonna paste in the webhook URL over here and set a text message. So let's first set the text message. So add expression. I'm gonna say, hey, user, and then let's get that information from the previous node. I'm just gonna do user name just signed up. If you see in the result, it says, hey, user John Smith just signed up. So this is the message that I am going to receive. All right, now I'm going to take it off the screen. I'm going to add my webhook URL. I'm going to bring it back and I'm going to execute this particular node. It gives me a success true. Fantastic. If I come to my Discord, and we see, hey, user John Smith just signed up. Fantastic. The Discord is configured. Now I want to go ahead and configure Stripe. So for Stripe, I already have a Stripe account, a Stripe test account created. And I want to create a customer. So let's go ahead and select customer and then create. And the name, now this again is coming in from our webhook node. So I have to do add expression and select the name, show where it is, it's over here. So in the result, we can see this is John Smith. We can add another field like their email. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first try to log into my Stripe test account. I'm doing this on another screen to make sure I don't expose anything. Let's see. All right. Continue. And I might have to do the Auth step. I mean, sorry, that MFA step. No. Okay. Pretty good. Test mode. All right. So here is my Stripe account running with the test data. All right. Let's check if if you can see some information in the test mode. So I'm going to execute the node. All right, we got a success. If I come to Stripe, is there a refresh option? No, let's see this. I'm going to refresh this. No. Interesting. See if I don't do test mode. Then if I do this, maybe I am using a different account. Yeah. Okay. So I think I am using a different Stripe account. So let me quickly check that. Okay. Just going to go to settings. So I basically want to get my what do you call it? API keys for this. Yes. But how do I get this? Why They make life so difficult. Okay, I have the test key in here. I'm just gonna come back quickly. I'm just gonna update my test key. Save this. Alright, so let me bring it up on stream again. Gonna execute this node. If we go to customers now, we have John Smith. So let's test it once again. I'm gonna delete this execution. I'm gonna execute the workflow. I'm gonna come to actions and I'm gonna run the test. So we don't have any errors. If we go to any 10, both of these nodes ran successfully. Let's check Stripe first. I don't think we are gonna be able to create another user because we already have the same user. Let's see if Stripe creates that. Alright, so we created another user. That's fantastic. And if we check, oops, just ignore that tweet. But if we check over here, we get a message that says John Smith just signed up. Fantastic. And we got Lakshya Gupta joining. And hey, Laksh, how are you doing? So we were just playing around with Auth0 actions and talking about how we can extend it to do a lot of great stuff. So one of the things that we did was, set up a post user registration hook. So every time a user registers, we send a message on Discord, as well as add them to Stripe. Alright, so let's go back to our page. I'm going to log out this test user. I'm going to go ahead and log in again. But this time, okay, wait. We need to first deploy this. It's a good thing that we remembered it. Come back to custom actions, or maybe just flows. So you want to do post user registration. So again, because we created a custom action, we want to use that. Let's just add user to Stripe. I'm going to pop it up in here. Click on apply. So again, what is going to happen? Well, whenever a user registers, it's going to run that particular action that we created, and that action will make a call to our init workflow, which will basically add that user to Stripe and also send a message on Discord. So let's run this workflow. Come back to our login screen. We are going to call it test2@test.com, and we are going to use the same password that we used for the previous user. Oops, we need to do sign up. My bad. test2@test.com. Give a very strong password. I hit continue. I'm going to accept it. So now the test user is logged in. That's fantastic. Our Auth0 action also ran, right? So if I come to the webhook and if I show you the data over here, we can see we have the user email in here. Our Stripe also ran and our Discord node also ran. If I go to Stripe, if I refresh this, we got the test user in here. Fantastic. And all right, so we have a user test2_test2.com. That is the login bot because the user logged in, and then we have the user something just signed up. Now we are not getting the name over here because we don't have the username, right? So come back over here and show you the incoming information. We don't have the username over here, and that's why we get this. We don't get the username, but that's completely fine. We just saw how we can, have the post user configured as well. So we got the login bot, which sends us a message when a user logs in. And then we got a post user registration bot. It does something when the user registers. And people are still liking that tweet. And we got that over here as well, but we don't have to focus on that. All right. So we got roughly 25 minutes. And I think I pretty much covered almost everything that I wanted to today. So I want to, see if you folks want me to do something different or something, or extend this in a way, or dive deeper into something more. Let's see. And yes, Prog1 says that it was them who liked that tweet. Thank you for liking the tweet. Well, again, you see that I have this automation running in. It automatically sends this kind of messages on my Discord server. This is something I did. Yeah, so yesterday I did a live stream where I showed how you can configure Twitter webhooks and create search bots for yourself. So Twitter has an account activity API which triggers your server or your API whenever someone likes your tweet, whenever you like a tweet, whenever someone retweets or quotes a tweet, like basically your tweet, whenever someone follows you, whenever someone sends you a direct message. So in that particular experiment, I have set up, a Discord bot which would run every time someone likes a tweet. Also, when someone follows me, I have the similar kind of automation running behind the scenes, which would update my Twitter profile banner. But that's not around what we are doing right now. So let's talk about what we are doing right now. Hey GOOBRC, I think you were in the stream yesterday, right? In that I have already shown how you can do that, and I have a YouTube video that shows that as well. If you folks want, I can share it again with you all. You can just go through that YouTube video and just check it out and create something similar for yourself. Okay, this crazy idea also gives me, another idea. So with Auth0, we also get this profile banners, right? The avatar URLs. So we can configure that avatar URLs and maybe update our Twitter banner. So once a user logs in or once a user is registered, we get that profile picture and add it to our Twitter banner. That's a crazy idea that we can, try it out. That you can try it out and build and play around with. Okay. So GOBRC is asking for the link for that particular video. Sure. Let me quickly go ahead and try to get it from my YouTube channel. If I can quickly find it. Okay. Go. Alright. Copy the link. So here it is. So just share a link for anyone who's interested in, learning how you can create automation to automatically update your Twitter profile banner. Okay, so we got roughly 22 minutes, if my math is correct. So what we can do now is we can have a recap of what we did throughout the stream, right? And I think Karan was interested in showing the project. Karan, if you are still around and if you want to show your project, just hit me up on Discord and I would be happy to, bring you up on the stream and help you showcase your work. Awesome. So let's do this. I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick recap of what we did in today's live stream, and then and yeah, in the meantime, if you have any questions, just pop it up in the chat, and I'll answer those questions as we move forward. But if you have any thoughts or comments, just let me know in the chat. All right. So I'm gonna clear the logs. So what we did today was we added authentication to our Next.js application. So Next.js is a framework built on top of React.js, which we can use to create single-page application. So we created a Next.js application using the command over here. Using the command npx create next app, and then we created a project called Auth0 next action, and then we just opened this. We started the developer environment for this, and we just played a bit around with it. Once we saw what it looks like and what the project structure is, we added the Auth0 Next.js package or library. After we added that, we configured it into our Next.js application. Now again, we have not added protected routes in here. We just added the login and logout functionality. So what we did is we created a route which is /API/auth/ anything now, because in the Next.js ecosystem, anything within those angle brackets is automatically handled, right? So in here we basically imported handle auth, which is a function that the Auth0 Next.js package provides, and we are basically exporting it. So now what this is doing is it is handling all the routes that come into /API/auth. So if a user goes to /API/auth/login, it is automatically handled and they are redirected to the login page. Same for the callback and same for the logout, right? Once we configured this particular route, we went to app.js and we used the user provider from Auth0 and wrapped our whole application within that. Once we did that, we can now use the use provider hook anywhere in their application, because with this we made the user available throughout our application. Then we went into our index.js file, because this is where we wanted to have the login and logout functionality. So what we did was we imported the user hook, and then we destructured the user error and age loading. Now it's a good practice to also use error and age loading, but I'm not using it for this live stream, right? So what we are doing over here is we are checking if the user is present. We want to say hello and then username, or we want to say hello stranger. Another way to do this is, if we don't want to repeat ourselves, is just do this. If this, do this, or alright. So it's just gonna say hello, and it's gonna check if the user is present. So if the user has logged in, we are gonna have a user object which is gonna contain user.name. So if the user is logged in, we're gonna say hello user. If not, we're gonna say hello stranger. And then we are showing this particular message. That's fine. And then also we are checking, if the user is logged in or not. So if the user is not logged in, we show them the login button. But if they are logged in, we show them the logout button. Right. Now, what we are doing over here is we are setting this up to the routes. So if the user is logged in, we send them to the login route. If you want to log out the user, we ask them to go to this particular route. Now again, if you see, we didn't write the logic for login and logout. All this was handled by Auth0 itself. One thing we also did was we also configured our credentials, which is something that I am not gonna able to show in here, but maybe I can go on their docs and show you what credentials we want to do. Set over here. Right. So after you create your Auth0 application, you would want to set up all these credentials. So the long random value, you can generate it via this command. So if you run this command, it will create a random string of 32 bits, which you can then use it in your credentials in here. Since we are running it locally, we want to set up localhost 3000. If you are using a different port, select or use that port in here. Then we are doing the auth user base, client ID and client secret. All this is coming in from Auth0. So if I go back to Auth0, if I go to applications and then default app, here is the client ID, this will be your client secret, and this is the domain that we are using. So once you have configured all these values, you can go ahead, try it out and set up the and play around with the login and logout functionality that you just created. I'm just checking if there is the things that you want to maybe try out. I mean, okay, we covered the basic things that we wanted to do, and then we dived a bit into Auth0 actions. So Auth0 action allows you to trigger your code, trigger some stuff based on different activities. So then we went to Auth0 actions. We talked a bit about flows. So you can have different kind of flows. One can be on login, one can be on post user registration, one can be on post change password based on your own app logic. We also created two custom actions. Yes, that's the correct word. So one of them is the send message post login. So whenever a user logs in to the application, this action would send a message to our Discord server. And then we have a add user to Stripe. So this action would basically make a call to RNet an instance, and this workflow will then get that information and then add the user to Stripe and also send us a message on Discord. Once we had those configured, we deployed it, we went to flows, we selected for which we want to add this. So we wanted to do it for login, so went in for login, we configured this send message post login, and then we clicked on apply. So every time a user logs into our application, we will get a message on Discord. We did it similar for post user registration. right? So we added the add user to Stripe action to the flow. So every time a new user logs in, we get we add them to Stripe, and we'll just send a message on Discord. So this is what we covered in today's stream. We got still 10 more minutes. I see there is a question in the chat by Yash. Can I ask a general question? To become a dev advocate, what are the requirements? Or what experience we should have? Wow. This is a good question, and I'm just trying to think of a really good answer for this. And I just want to make sure that I am giving you a good answer. Uh, um, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my experience. So for me, I have always enjoyed talking to people, helping them, teaching different things, just like what I'm doing on this live stream, right? So that was one thing that I really enjoyed, and that helped me to get into a developer advocacy role. Talking about the requirements, there are no particular requirements, I would say. It generally depends from companies to companies what that company is looking for. And to be honest, nowadays a lot of companies are open to hire freshers or people, right after their graduation. But again, you will have to, check what kind of company it is. If you are gonna enjoy working for that company, if that product excites you, because a lot of times, almost 90% of the time, you are gonna, create content. You are gonna talk about the product. You're gonna teach people how to use that product, right? And if you are not passionate about the product itself, or if you're not passionate about the service that company is providing, you are not gonna enjoy that journey, and it is gonna, and trust me, it's not a good experience. So the first thing I would say is, just take a look at what they are doing, try it out in your free time, play around with it, see if that excites you, and then maybe you don't necessarily have to be a developer advocate. Just go ahead and start writing about that thing, start talking about it to the people, help people learn about it. And I have heard stories from a lot of developer advocates that they, because of all the helpful content that they were creating, they got the job as a developer advocate, right? So I would say, if you really want to get into developer advocacy, first ask yourself, if you are someone who likes to help people, who likes to talk to people, and who likes to create educational content, right? If you think you fit, you like all those things, go ahead and start doing it. Because once you start doing it, people will appreciate your work, and that's what gonna help you. Because in interviews, while applying for these roles, you kind of have to show a bit of what experience you have, right? So if you already have an experience of writing content or creating YouTube videos, right, it's gonna help you in that whole interview process. So as a requirement, there are kind of none, but for me personally, I see, for my personal requirement, I always make sure that I enjoy that product, and I enjoy talking about it to other people, right? So that's my own personal requirement. And about the experience, I would say, just go ahead, start creating educational content, and that would give you a good amount of experience, and that experience, you can leverage it later on in the career. GOBRIC that says that I am a former educator / teacher. Can I become a dev or a dev advocate even though I'm new to tech? Yes, you can. One of my former manager were a teacher, if I'm not wrong, and she is a DevRel right now, and she is pretty amazing. Because you are a former educator and a teacher, right? You know how to teach people. You have that experience of teaching people, right? So you can definitely do that. And for you, I have a really interesting advice. Now, feel free to not follow it. It's something that I feel might help you. Is to do is since you're new to tech, start talking about your journey. Start talking about what you learned. Write a blog post, or if you're into creating videos, start creating videos around that, so that people can learn from you as well. One thing that I have often seen people uh, uh, kind of not get into creating content is this idea of hey, there is already a video, there are already articles around how to use Auth0 with Next.js. I mean, there is, definitely there is, but it's not from your perspective, right? And for someone, your perspective might be helpful. They might have gone through those hundreds of articles and they might not understand from those hundreds of articles, but your perspective might help them understand how to configure authentication for your not for your Next.js application using Auth0. And this has happened with me. I wrote an article a while back, and it was from my own perspective, and people really liked it. People really appreciated it, and people were asking a lot of questions around, how to do this, how to do that. It was around the whole ecosystem that I was talking about in that article. So I would say this is something, that you can definitely try it out. And yes, Proc says, thanks Harshil for sharing your views and experience, really insightful. I am happy, that you find it insightful. If you want to talk more about DevRel, just ping me up on Twitter. So here is somewhere my Twitter handler. Just ping me up on Twitter. I'm happy to talk to you more about DevRel, talk to you more about my journey. GeoBRS says, I value your advice. Thank you. Dhanyavad. You're welcome. All right, folks. We got 4 more minutes. Do you have any questions that about what we did today, or anything else? Just pop it up in the chat, or else if you come up with any questions later on, you know where to find me. Perfect. I'm gonna wait for a couple of minutes to see if you folks have any questions. And if you folks don't have any questions, we can talk post stream as well. Just gonna wait for 1 more minute to see if we have got questions, and then we'll see you probably on Twitter. Alright, while you folks are posting that question, I am gonna quickly see if there are any messages on Discord for me. Let's see. No messages for me on Discord. So yes, says that they created a video. It was more helpful to folk than previously present ones. See, that's what I'm talking about. So because we have our own perspective, right? Someone might vibe with our perspective and they might find it useful. So even if there are hundreds of videos on the same topic, it's never a bad idea to create the same to create a video on the same topic. Not just a video, even writing about it is something, I personally enjoy writing, so I do more blog posts than videos, but I'm trying to get into videos as well. So if you want to see my videos, just subscribe to me on YouTube. I am not very regular, but I'm trying to be regular over there. So if you want to support me, just go ahead and subscribe me on YouTube as well. All right, folks. That was me. Thank you all for joining in. I hope you enjoyed the stream today. If you have any feedback, just again, Twitter is the best place to just ping me, just to get in touch with me. And I am looking forward to see what you all build with Auth0 and Auth0 actions. So if you build anything with Auth0 or Auth0 actions, just let me know again on Twitter, and I would be happy to enjoy seeing that and share it with the rest of the folks. Again, thank you all for joining in, and I hope you have all a very good day, night, evening, whatever it is for you. Have a nice one and see you soon.